took over as petroleum minister in 2021, and since then we've seen two major wars in Ukraine and in West Asia, and both of them have had implications for India's energy security. And I'm trying to see how we are poised before we come to what we are trying to do here. How has this turbulence shaped our strategy, and are those changes here to stay?
Well, thank you very much for kicking off this event, which I think is in many ways a first of its kind, because we will have the privilege of participation, if I'm not mistaken, by 22 of our states. We will have the participation of the CEOs of a large number of entities which are major contributors and stakeholders. And thank you very much for being here. I mean, you will, I'm sure, not stick to the talking points that my colleagues are often, I accuse them of trying to control the narrative by telling me what I should say and even saying what they think you should say. And I have full faith that you'll deviate from that and we can have a robust conversation.
I hope to live up to your expectations.
I'm sure you will, knowing you. Let me start by saying that when you talk of global turbulence, I'm a student of history. I was a professional diplomat for 39 years. I've done think tanking for God knows how many years. I've been a minister for 8 years. But if I had to look at the post-war history, that is post-Second World War, post-1947, after we became an independent country, I cannot seriously think of any period during that extended phase where global turbulence was of this order. There have been phases where tensions have been very high. There have been phases where wars have been fought. But I think if you add the uncertainty quotient to that turbulence, this takes the cake. All right. Yes, I became the minister. I've been a minister earlier, but I was associated with this portfolio, madam, from July 2021. And very soon you had the Russia-Ukraine military conflict. Then you had one, then you had the other. And now we have other challenges. How did we manage to get over that? I think the one point is that over the last 11 years or so, and this I think is the main point, we've diversified our options, we've built resilience, and we have been able to navigate those challenges. And if I don't sound too presumptuous, or you might even say overconfident, I think each of these challenges posed by the turbulence has actually provided us opportunities. And I think that is what has stood us by. And full marks to my boss, who has not only provided the overall direction, but he has stood by us and, he has always guided us all along. I know where you're wanting to go. Why did you buy from here and not from there, etc. But whenever you're ready, I'm ready.
No. I'm going to add to your turbulence, and I'm going to talk about Donald Trump.
Well, should we come to that sequentially, or should we come to it first? Okay, let's start with
Let's look at. So we are buying 30% of our crude from Russia, and now the Americans have threatened secondary sanctions. What impact do you see on India's oil supply, and what is our backup plan, sir?
Well, first and foremost, madam, I don't feel any pressure in my mind. And I don't think my boss's mind is wired to feel any pressure. And that's where I draw my strength from. but I'd like to have a discussion with you on the hard facts. First and foremost, what are the facts? In February 2022, when the military conflict between Russia and the Ukraine commenced, we were buying, if I remember, 0.2% of our overall crude from the Russian Federation. Today, yes, you are absolutely right, it has gone up considerably. But equally, during this period, India has diversified the sources of supply, and we have gone, I think, from about 27 countries that we used to buy from to about 40 countries now. But more than that, if you go into should you buy from a source 1 or should you buy from a source 2, we have been clear from the day go that we will buy from wherever we have to. Because the Prime Minister's commitment is in the final analysis to his consumer, to the Indian consumer. And I think that policy has stood us in good stead. We are probably one of the few, I would have, if I didn't have this enlightened an audience, I might have said we are the only, but no, we may not be the only. But for a country of our size, for a country of our consumption level, why do I say this? In the last 10, 11 years, 16% of the growth in the energy markets, crude oil, has come from India. Yeah. And if you believe in the analysis of the International Energy Agency, by the way, I saw a statement that someone might be pulling out of there also, but let's leave it at that. They say, a very credible analysis, that in the next 2 decades, 25% of the global growth is going to come from India. Increase in oil demand. Okay, so today Russia is one of the main suppliers. I don't know what the figures were in 2022. Today, I think they produce about 9 million barrels a day. 9 million barrels a day, madam, is roughly 10% of the global production per day and consumption per day. I ask you a hypothetical question. Supposing you take 10% of the consumption off the table, there are 2 possibilities. One, the rest of the world, the whole world, stops consuming or consumes 10% less, which means what? Which means in a country, let's say, I can pick up any country, some people won't get heating in winter, some people won't get air conditioning in summer, some of the transport will stop plying. So 10% consumption reduction is not an easy thing, or something else will happen. You decide that 10% is going off the market, you don't want to reduce consumption, then you start buying more from the remaining 90%. You know what that would do to prices? The prices which were here would skyrocket. We did an analysis, my secretary who's sitting here and some of my other colleagues, that if more and more people were to buy from the other OPEC sources, you know what would have happened? Prices would have gone up minimum to $130, $140 a barrel. So if we were buying from any source that we could, I think we should be applauded